Assalamu alaikum, salam, shalom. Welcome back to the Science of Soul podcast, SOS podcast. I'm going to start doing that. I'm going to call it SOS. It's much quicker. This is episode 2, and on this episode, me and Abdin talk about identity, what it means to be us, myself, I, what it means to be part of a collective, and all sorts of cool stuff like that. So hope you guys enjoy. If you are listening on Apple Podcast or Google Podcast or any other service like that, please give us a review and thumbs up and share it with people. And yeah, if you're watching on YouTube, then comment below, subscribe, and share it with your friends and family. All right, enjoy the podcast. Okay, I always wanted to say this, and we are live.
Are we? What?
Yep.
Oh, God. Let me put my trousers back on, bruv.
There's video, people can see you got your trousers on.
How you doing, man? How you doing?
I'm good, bro. That first one got off to a bumpy start.
It's so cold in here.
It's so cold. I think we're gonna have to either buy some more heating for the studio, silent heating, or we're gonna have to get a better studio.
I think I like the idea of silent heaters.
Stop hating on my studio, bro.
Silent heaters.
Why? If you had more natural insulation on your body, then we wouldn't be talking about this.
I wish I was a polar bear.
You don't hear polar bears complaining.
Oh, no, actually, I wouldn't.
Or seals.
Which animal would you wish to be?
Oh.
I would like to be a hibernating one.
Oh.
Because I think I have SAD, seasonal associated disorder. Seasonal associated depression.
Got me thinking now, bro. Can it be, is it got to be like an existing animal? Can I?
It has to be. I wouldn't want to be an extinct animal.
No,
but
can I not
it.
synthesize an animal?
Yeah, oh.
I would want to be a tiger eagle.
Tiger eagle.
Because that would make me, no, a tiger shark eagle. I'd be top of the food chain in all realms, bro.
You just want to be at the top of the food chain.
No, but
You're not, because man is top of the food chain.
alhamdulillah, that's sick. But I still feel like if I came face to face with a tiger shark or an eagle, I wouldn't be at the top of the food chain.
Tiger, shark, eagle.
Yeah, not in that moment. In that moment, that thing would own me, bro.
That is true.
Or a turtle.
No, I wouldn't want to be a turtle.
Why? They just swim around
Bloody
the
hell.
whole...
Have you seen how humans crack open turtles? Imagine being
I've
caught
never seen
by a human. Like you were a little turtle, got caught by a human, and then they just bloody axed you, bruv.
I'll tell you where, I'm really sorry to animal lovers out there in the world. I'll tell you where animals got proper mauled in recent time.
Where?
Bangladesh by my kids.
Why?
Bruv, so my little ones are crazy about animals.
Okay.
Like, that, literally, their whole trip to Bangladesh was made amazing.
Because of animals.
Yeah, by the fact that there was animals.
Okay.
And
Bangladesh is sick. I loved it because there was animals when I was younger.
yeah, that's literally, they loved it because of animals. And they had rabbits, they had chickens, chicks, cats, kittens, there's dogs, there's goats, there's many other animals, cows as well, baby cows.
Yeah.
They managed to pet a calf that was born the day
Oh, wow.
like that they were in that village. So,
Did the hand smell afterwards?
bruv, we went through bottles and bottles of hand sanitizer. Abdullah went and actually grabbed the tail of a cow, but a bit too close to the top, if you know what I mean.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, oh.
Was it a man one or a woman one?
I didn't.
Oh, so it was
I don't know. It had udders, so I imagine it
Okay,
was
it's a cow.
cow, yeah?
Yeah.
Not a bull.
You are so urbanized, bruv. That you can't.
I am really urbanized, yeah.
Like, what did you just say? Do you realize what you just said?
What did I say?
You said, "Oh, it had udders." So, is that a bull? Is that a cow?
No, but a cow for us is basically, it's a commodity, isn't it, really? It's just a milk machine. It's a vending machine for milk and beef.
horrible, isn't it?
That is horrible.
But I consume meat and I drink milk.
You
I'm
are a
kind of
proper carnivore,
buying
bro.
it. Yeah, I've bought into this horrific. Yeah, let's not describe it.
The industry,
Yeah,
the complex.
before we get killed ourselves, we're just little fishes here.
Do you think
Leave
we're
us
like,
alone.
you know how we're like feasting on them? Do you think somewhere, someone is feasting on us and we don't realize it?
In the universe.
Yeah, bro.
Ooh, you know what? On I think it was the Telegraph, but anyway, one of the news broadcasters, they were saying that they had found molecular oxygen in a faraway galaxy. This is the first time.
What does that mean, molecular oxygen? Like breathable? Or?
Yeah, like oxygen. I don't know.
Wait, when you
I
do
don't know why I said that, but
when you do that, yeah. So for people who are
O2
listening on the
basically.
podcast, yeah, he basically made. You know how like a mafia mob boss might like when they want to put a hit on someone
yeah,
or
yeah.
insult someone, they go,
they wouldn't know what I just
"Babanculo,"
done.
you know, like with their hands.
And all they're thinking, what is this guy? Is
Yeah.
this guy constipated?
Yeah. And then you said oxygen. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I didn't read much into it, but molecular oxygen, I'm guessing that it's just like,
I'm guessing maybe it's in a
structure.
form
Yeah,
that is more similar to what we used to hear.
I guess so, yeah.
Yeah, interesting.
This is the first time. So maybe there is some weirdo out there molesting human beings.
I know. I can tell you for one thing that I'm a free range chicken, mate. So
Are you?
They're coming after me first.
When was it?
You're the hard chicken,
Oh yeah. I'm just
broiler, whatever it's called.
the one that is really skinny. That is how it looks.
You're
in
that
the
lean
shop.
chicken. I'm sure it would do well in a fight, but not very good
That
in
lean
curry.
chicken. When you get to eat it, when you start eating it, I mean, at first it's not nice.
It's a fight, bro. Eating those chickens is you have to
You're like,
do jujitsu on it. Like, you have to get in a chokehold, submit it to eat it.
Give me your meat no. But when was it actually? Oh, it was the other day when we were in IKEA, where there was actual proper kind of demonstration of humans being herded in.
Yes.
And then I told you there was one woman who kept the she wouldn't move on, and she needed a cattle prod.
Bro, it was like walking through a really fancy abattoir, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's it's,
Well, I guess that is what it is. Life. I think. When I was going to uni, I used to work in a commercial shop, quite a famous one, big one, and that is what it looked. It just looked like headless chickens just walking around buying some of the stuff that I used to
just pecking at stuff.
they're just buying, and you just think, oh, it's just like an abattoir. Like IKEA is like. I mean, let's not describe IKEA.
Yeah.
But it's like an abattoir, though, isn't it? Because you have to walk through.
Certain direction, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's
The
warehouse.
only thing is you don't get killed at the end. So that's.
Don't you?
Oh yeah, actually, maybe you metaphorically you probably get killed metaphorically. You're probably coming out in some sort of, I don't know, skin, bit like what's it? Men in Black. The alien in the skin.
Yeah. Cockroach man. So what we talking about today?
Actually, it ties in identity. Like, we're so confused here. We're like, what animal would you be? And then talking about,
Yeah.
So what are we really?
Yeah. What are we? Who are we? Hey, have you seen that HSBC advert? I know you have
yeah.
seen it because
Yeah.
I saw it with you in the cinema and I looked over at you and I was like, that's really interesting. So the advert, for those who haven't seen it, it's Richard Ayoade, who's that comedian off the IT crowd, the IT crowd.
Yep.
And he basically is asking, who are we? And then he asks the questions, is it where we're from? And then it shows clips of people from India or the village or whatever. And then he says, is it what we do? And then it's like clips of people enjoying different pastimes. And then is it what we eat? And basically it is a marketing campaign and a strategy by HSBC to, I don't even know what they're trying to do. Maybe they're trying to just say, oh, we're all together. But it raised interesting ideas and questions for me, especially because I've been thinking about this because I recently went Bangladesh, and I was talking about with the kids. We went Bangladesh,
Yeah.
and I did some filming, asking the elders like about how they grew up and how they felt about some of us moving here, and is who we are like where we grew up, or is it where we're ethnically from, or what? So yeah, take it away. I mean, I've got more to say on that, but what?
Well, you enlighten me. I might, feed me the juices, bruv.
Okay, juices are coming.
Because my
Gotta
brain
come
right
thick and
now,
fast, bro.
my brain right now is just, it's in that headlock, bruv. Right now, it's in that headlock, the headlock, the chicken headlock that you're talking about, bruv. What I'm thinking about is oxygen starvation.
Oxygen. Okay. Okay. Yeah, go for it. Go for it.
Identity, I think we've been talking about identity for a while, identity crisis, especially within the Muslim community. We're going through, we can describe it to be an identity crisis, and, where we're kind of almost quite desperate. It seems like at times we're quite desperate to be accepted into society. But I think it moves on nicely from, the soul, and kind of trying to figure out who we are. But then again, doesn't matter who we really are. Do we become non-functional if we, are lone rangers and just floating
That's a good
around?
question.
And
I think specifically on that question of knowing who we are, if that can be tied into self-awareness, I think it is kind of important, because for me, I'm talking about me, Jubair, like not me as like a member of the Muslim community, or me as a British man, or me as a male, or me as any of those things. Just me, Jubair, to be the best version of me that I can be, and that sounds so cheesy, but to improve and overcome the ailments that I have, or the deficiencies, then I've got to be I've kind of got to be aware of some of these deficiencies and ailments, and I don't know if that's the same thing, but self-awareness is important on that journey of improving and leveling up, and heading in a direction that you could say is the right direction of any journey, or on a path, and not knowing who I am, at least from the point of view of self-awareness and understanding my weaknesses, just leads me to kind of go in circles and not be so directional, with where I'm headed.
I understand what you're saying, but the question again: do you have to have an identity to be self-aware?
Well, okay. Take Star Wars for
Yeah.
Do you remember? I forgot his name when he was a soldier. FN.
Oh yeah. The black guy.
Black guy, yeah. I mean, his name in the character, he becomes Finn, isn't it? That's what they name him.
Yeah.
So Finn has that moment in the first one where he's like, "What am I doing?" Like he recognizes who he is.
Yeah.
And that helps him to make the change, like a significant change in his life. So, sometimes maybe you need to realize that you're the bad guy to then change that story.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if I'm getting like too tied into like more psychology, as opposed to say like.
No, I understand what you're saying. Actually, I do understand.
Yeah, as opposed to like the things which you don't have no say in, like like I didn't have a say in being a brown man with.
But isn't that your identity?
I don't know. Is it my identity? It might be what other people use to identify me.
Who would you describe yourself to be? If I was to ask you, just imagine I'm like a woman right now.
Like a good-looking one.
Yeah.
I'd run away because my wife would listen to this and she'll kill me.
Okay.
I'd literally run away.
Okay, imagine you're being interviewed right now, and I asked you, and you have to answer who you are. It's not one of those things just like, the interviewer is asking you because for the sake of asking you. It's on monster.co.uk. Who are you, Jubair? And I want to know everything.
Well, it's hard, bro, because...
in one sentence.
I'm going to have to answer this question by asking more questions.
No.
I have to.
No, you can't.
Because is who you are your job? So do I say, oh, I am, and then I say
I don't know.
a
That's
job?
what I'm asking you. So the first thing I asked you, the first thing that came to your head, I want you to say the first thing that came to your head. If I were to ask you, regardless of who I am, I'm your friend, yeah? Okay, forget this interview. I'm your friend. Who are you, Jubair? Tell me the first 5 things that come to your head.
I think
Just list them.
the best way for me to
Oh my
answer this.
God.
Sorry, bro. I'm completely messing up the thing that you're trying to get me to do. I see what you're trying to get me to do. You're cattle prodding me, bro. I don't like it. Stop cattle prodding me. No, do you know what it is? The reason I can't answer the question is because I haven't got an answer to the question. I've just got bare questions. And
Okay.
let me tell you this one particular story. So years ago, when Facebook had first come out, and just everyone was on Facebook. You remember how everyone was on MSN Messenger, and then everyone migrated to like the different social media sites, and then it was Facebook. So when Facebook was first kind of like, the bee's knees, I remember being on there and being all part of different societies and different groups, different pages or whatever. And there was one group which was to do with being Bengali but being based in Britain.
Yeah. I remember.
Yeah, there was 2 I remember, but I can't remember the names of them. I just remember one was run by like sort of slightly more capitalist guys, and then one which is run by like more socialist types.
Okay.
I was part of both. Anyways,
You flipping rebel.
in one of the groups, the question of not the question, the event was highlighted. The independence,
Okay.
Bangladesh independence.
Yep.
That came up, and
Did you hate it?
well, I just got a bit weirded out by this group of people going crazy about this particular day, which there was a side of it which I totally understood. People feeling like they were liberated and they got self
Identity.
they got the identity of naming the country Bangladesh and all those kinds of things.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
But there was what's that term when you can decide your own future? Self-determination. Yes.
Okay.
They got self-determination,
Yeah.
because prior to that it was East Pakistan.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it was governed by Pakistan.
Yeah. And they were imposed to speak Urdu and
Language and all these other
so-
things which didn't,
yeah.
there was definitely some conflict. And so this group on Facebook they were getting so excited about it. And I remember just saying, maybe I just picked the wrong moment, like sometimes when someone's celebrating something, you shouldn't just go and like pee on their parade. But I remember just saying,
you done it?
I fully peed on their parade. I basically said something about, oh, well, part of this makes me sad because this is like 2 Muslim nations that like forever from this point chose to split ways and went down 2 different paths. And I was saying that completely from the point of view of not knowing all the things that had happened.
Yeah.
So I put my hands up and say that like there's a lot of atrocities that happened, and there's good reason why a group of people in a country should decide that they should have a say in their own future. That I do not argue with that. I respect it, but just anywhere where communities or people split, it's sad, right? And it depends on various reasons. It could be a family member who is genuinely done something wrong to another family member and they deserve to be like pushed away, or it could be a nation and another nation that forever now are not the close allies they once were. And so I said, it makes me sad. And then they were like, yeah, but you're Bengali, how could you say something like that? And then I shouldn't have, but I went off on one and I had a little rant and I was like, yeah, but look, at the end of the day, I'm Muslim first. That's the transcendent, ephemeral thing that unites us all before any of the other layers are added. And so that's kind of what I said, back in my like late teens, early 20s, in this rant type thing on Facebook. So I don't think I've strayed that far from still in that way identifying, but I don't think it's as easy as just saying I'm Muslim, because that in itself is a very broad thing. And
so.
I don't know how granular we want to get. Do we want to I'm doing the hand thing that you were doing now. Do we want to get down to the microscopic level of who is Jaber? Is that even important? Or do we want to lump groups of people together? But that's not fair as well, because groups of people are they have differences, and they should be valued and recognized and respected for some of those differences. So I don't know. Sorry, bro. I'm just looking at the timeline here. That is some long answer to what you were asking, and I still didn't really answer your question.
The 5 things. I think.
What about you? What is your 5 things in a sentence?
I can't do that.
No,
you can't do that. You can't. I just done it on you.
You can't ask me and not have an answer for yourself.
I didn't have an answer. I wasn't prepped for it. I actually don't have an answer. But you talking about back in the days. Me talking about back in bloody hell, I was angry. I'm still angry, but I was so angry when I was younger.
You're angry man. If you were a superhero, that would be your superpower.
Angry man.
Angry man. Yeah.
What would you be?
I don't know.
I'm still trying to get that identity thing out.
Identity thing, and it's not working. You caught me off guard there.
I've been asking you so many, like, which animal would you... Well, you did answer the animal thing, but even then you were confused. You wanted to be a shark and a tiger and an eagle put together.
Hybrid.
You be a mutant, bruv. You be...
Yeah, it's like, when you have this idea in your head that it'll be sick, but then when you do it, the animal is begging for you to kill it. Have you heard of a liger?
Yeah.
Yeah, so liger, when I first got told about it, I was like, that sounds amazing. And then I read up on it, and these things are like miserable.
Yeah, they're huge.
They're so ill.
Oh, my God.
So sad.
We are sidetracking.
Yeah, sorry, bro. Carry on.
So I remember I was on this kind of nationalistic hype in terms of anti-nationalistic hype of nationalism kind of destroying unity and stuff like that. I still think that's the truth, but it doesn't mean that we kind of eradicate the diversity and the differences that we have. I think equality is something. Equality is giving others what they need. For example, you cannot there is discrimination if you're treating somebody with a disability completely with the same kind of facilities, etc., as a person who doesn't have disabilities. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You are going to treat the person with disabilities slightly different according to their needs. Yeah. So in that sense, you are being equal. So I think identity is important, but it can lead to a lot of negative things if it's not embraced appropriately. Okay. I don't know what you think.
I agree with you.
I haven't kind of explained what I mean by that, but
no, I know what you mean. I mean, so I went to Bangladesh this year, and part of that was for work. Yeah. So I film projects that various charities do, and then feed that back to the people who've donated to those charities. But that was only like a tiny part of what the trip was about, and because the job was in Bangladesh, I thought, oh well, I'm a Bengali. I'm someone of Bengali. I'm a descendant of Bengalis, and I thought I'll take my wife. She hasn't been in like 25 years, and I'll take my kids. They've never been to get a sense of that aspect of their identity. And one thing, bro, I have to tell you, like one thing I came to realize when I was there is that even within Bangladesh, you get people who are all very different. You get people who, the fact of them being educated and having money gives them a very different outlook on life and their values. And then you get people who are poor and from the village, and how they interact and how they look at the world and how they identify themselves. Very different. And then you get people like us who, especially me, like I'm slowly losing the language as well. Every day that goes past, I can sense that I'm not as sharp and fluent and as eloquent in Bengali as I once was. And my kids don't speak any Bengali. I mean, they picked up a tiny bit when they were there, but they don't speak any Bengali. And them not speaking Bengali, so them only having an English frame of reference. Like they say, well, at least Noam Chomsky has this idea of like language is the thing which gives reality its essence, especially to human beings. Like we think in language, right?
Yep.
So my kids think in English. If they think in English, then, and you say, I think, therefore I am, then they are English.
Yeah.
I mean, they have Muslim values because we've tried to put that in them. And you could say some cultural Bengali stuff, but they don't speak and therefore they don't think in Bengali. And so how could they possibly be Bengali? And yet they still had such a beautiful time, playing with animals and playing with family members and playing with kids. And so
It'd be interesting to see if a person who was a white English family going to Bangladesh, and if the kids, if they behaved in the same way as your kids.
Absolutely.
And I appreciate what you're saying about language, but is it just language, or is it other things? For example, your children, they must like curry and rice.
Surprisingly, Sophia doesn't so much. I think she would rather eat fish and chips.
Really?
Yeah, I'm not even joking. Abdullah will eat anything.
Yeah,
he's a beast. But Sophia, she's very picky. But that's I know what you mean. Like that's another thing. But yeah, man, one thing I can tell you that was profound in what I realized when I was there was that I'm incredibly fortunate, and I don't mean fortunate in the sense of like chance and luck. I mean, I'm very blessed that I was afforded certain opportunities that a lot of my relatives who are still in Bangladesh were not afforded in who came over during the big migration of Bengalis to this country. And the fact that I got like free healthcare, free high quality education, a whole different quality of food, and all the things that come with that. But at the same time, it is really like it's razor thin how easily like it could have been that I was on that side of the world. If a different, like my grandfather came to this country in 1977, and he was from 3 brothers. If another brother, and the other 2 brothers stayed behind.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So if one of those other brothers had come and not him, it would have been a completely different story.
You'd be a fisherman right now.
I very likely, well, or even a farmer.
Or farmer, yeah.
Yeah. And my father came to this country when he married my mum, but he came from a family where 3 of his siblings were still in Bangladesh. Like one has passed on. So, if you like, I did a little bit of maths, and it's literally like 1% of the people of Bangladesh had a chance to come here.
Okay, wow.
And I'm in that 1%.
That's crazy, isn't it?
Or at least I'm from the descendants of that 1%.
Yeah. So would you regard yourself as Bengali?
I don't know. I mean, I can at least say, all those other things of when you define yourself through your job and your outlook. So whether you define yourself as like a communist or a capitalist, or whether you define yourself as a liberal or a conservative, or you identify yourself as by your profession, so like a filmmaker or a creative or whatever, all of those things which come from being someone who grew up in Britain and being exposed to these things, none of those things would have been my identity had I been born over there. Meaning a big part of my life of
would
how
have been completely different.
Would have been completely different because of the opportunities and because of the ideas that I was open to and that were around me. So, like you could say, how your environment creates you somewhat. This environment has created this somewhat. Yeah. I'm sure like there's aspects of my personality that probably latched onto certain things and shied away from other things, but in large part, this is what this environment has led me to be this person. And I don't know if I would be the same person with the same personality or interests if I was born and raised in Bangladesh.
It's very interesting the fact that we find it difficult to define what identity is and who we are in an environment where there's a lot of people who are kind of obsessed about being accepted into certain categories of people, and they are doing things which will bring about acceptance into these categories of of people.
Yeah.
Which is also leading to, you know, if we talk about young people, because this is where we have a lot of, you know, of emotion in terms of identifying themselves with others. You know, it leads to severe things like such as bullying. And you know, we've had an incident in kind of the media recently with that Australian boy being bullied because he was just slightly different.
Yeah.
So I mean, taking that into context, is your health an identifying factor for yourself, for example?
It's crazy because one thing I've been talking a lot with my wife about how we raise our kids.
Yeah.
And a big part of that is what we feed them
Yeah.
and the exercise they get.
Yeah.
And how we restrict certain things.
Yeah.
Like too much time with tablets or too much sweets and things. So what we're talking about is their well-being and their health. And so I was saying to her, like, have we become one of those parents, like, who, oh, you know, we're just too tightly wound, obstructive, restrictive, you know, those kinds of things. But I look at some of my relatives' kids or my friends' kids, and I see how, you know, and some people might laugh looking at how I raise my kids and think it's too relaxed. But I see how other people have raised their kids, and that has led to them having like severe health issues, whether it's being overweight or it's having like certain I wouldn't say like I would say behavioral disorders, things that are not like that, they're not defined by, but it could be corrected, but you can see them. It's very, you know, observable. And so those things have started to become their identity. Fat naughty kids, or you know, like some people would
as humans, we love to label, don't we?
We love labeling, yeah, because it helps. It just makes the world easier for us to understand, right?
Yeah.
And so when you ask me that, like, I know there's a lot of things that if I could just click my fingers and change about my health, and the way that I am identified because of it, then I would. But I think now in this, you know, like that, we're talking about that self-awareness thing.
Yeah.
Knowing those aspects of me, now I can like make adjustments so that those things are changed.
Okay.
Which kind of almost goes to this other question, like, is your identity flexible? Is it something that changes and evolves, or is it something fixed and static?
That's difficult, isn't it? I think that it is dynamic. I would say it's dynamic.
Yeah.
I think how I would describe myself, or if someone was to ask me, depending on who they are, I would probably answer differently.
Yeah.
For example, if it's a professional person, I'll probably start off with who I am, as in my profession.
Yeah.
Whereas if it was a potential lover, you know, I might say, you know, I'm
sexy guy.
Yeah, I'm a cool guy. I do BJJ and I go gym and etc. Right? I got a six pack, and even though I don't, but I mean, I was kind of, as you were talking, what you were saying about self-awareness was kind of, you know, digesting within me, and I realized that, yes, self-awareness is very important for our behaviors. So if I was to ask you the question about your children, if they were to be asked who they are, as a parent, what would you like them to, say? What would you like them, what would be the first thing you would like them to say? In terms of thinking about if that, what they say is connected to self-awareness, and therefore connected to the way they behave within society and within the community.
Yeah, that's hard, man. I would be more concerned about the way they behaved, like the way they were, as opposed to what they said they were. So I would be more concerned that they had manners
Okay.
and that they respected other people
Yeah.
and that they were willing to share and were giving, but were still strong enough and had a sense of justice
Yeah.
that if something bad happened,
Yeah.
they would stand up for the right thing. So those, like, I would be more concerned about that than them telling anyone that
There's something.
that they're Muslim.
I was not expecting you to
Yeah.
say that, but I think that's profound.
Yeah, because because one thing I realized, at least so because I work a lot in media,
Yeah.
and I have friends who are well known,
Yeah.
and one thing I realized is you can talk and say this is who I am, this is what I'm about, and this is my story, and it doesn't mean anything unless you have some impact on your reality
Yeah.
that can truly it's that thing from Batman, isn't it? You
Yeah.
know, it's not who you are
I don't know.
inside.
I don't know why I just said yeah, but
Well, remember there's that line. He goes, "It's not who you are inside that defines you, but what you do." You know that thing.
Oh,
Remember?
Yeah, I can't remember it.
It's in Batman Begins.
Okay.
And I'm like, that's true, because you could be the nicest guy inside, but if you don't do anything about it,
Yeah.
then you're not a nice
So
guy.
is your identity defined by who your actions? Is that?
Oh, now we're getting deep.
I think for me that makes more sense. That makes it more sense. But I don't think we can disregard the natural things that describe our identity. I think there is
Yeah.
a very strong thing there. For example, our ethnicity. Bengalis, being Bengalis, even though we grew up in a Western society, I would say I'm a Westerner, but my behavior and my way of thinking isn't like a British Westerner, for example, or a complete,
Like a white.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's more, a Bengali Westerner.
Yeah.
And then even that we keep talking about spectrums. Even that we have spectrums, don't we?
Yeah, bro.
We have on one side where you have the really, really modern
Coconuts.
kind of coconuts. And on
I
the other
remember being called a coconut, bro.
I was called a coconut the other day.
Is
Not
it?
long ago, yeah. And I was like, mate, I'm the opposite of being a coconut.
Yeah. I tried to think of a fruit for you. You're a passion fruit.
I'll be happy to be a passion fruit. You know what you are? You'll be a kiwi, bro. I'm allergic to kiwi.
Kiwi.
Gives me like throat itching.
Throat rash.
Yeah.
Okay.
But what was I saying? Going back to our roots, who we are genetically, I think has a massive impact on our behavior. I don't think we can disregard that. There's a very interesting story during the famous Muslim general Khalid bin al-Walid, and one of the battles when he was conquering lands, he had decided to kind of mix up the ranks before it was kind of separated out by tribes, or I can't quite remember what it was, whether it was tribes or ethnicities or race. Anyway, he decided that he needed to mix it up because we have this idea in Islamic theology of equality, etc. And I think this is where we get a purer definition of what equality means. It means that even though you're different, it doesn't mean that you're lower or you're higher.
Yeah.
I think that is what it is. But give each other whatever they need. Anyway, going back to the story, he decided one battle to mix up the ranks, and they went into battle, and they were fighting, and he realized that they were on the losing side, and he just couldn't figure out what was happening. Why is it? And he was a master of war. And then he realized that he had mixed up the ranks.
Yeah.
And these people just couldn't work with each other.
Yeah.
So he decided to revert back to how it was before. And they ended up winning that battle. I think that is a very powerful kind of illustration of how important it is to identify to your ethnicity and your race. Because I don't mean it in a very being separate. I'm this, so going back to that equality. I think it's important that we embrace our differences,
Yeah.
but we don't become arrogant because of our differences.
Yeah.
I want to stress that. However, the question is, would society be more productive if they were able to kind of embrace their ethnicities, embrace their differences?
It's interesting because I'm really thinking, I'm trying to like really internalize what you're saying, but, and you knew there was a but coming. The world that we live in now, I'm sure you'd agree, it's increasingly becoming more and more globalized.
Yeah.
If it isn't already. There's going to be, I think Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg are working on getting free internet for people in like really remote villages where, you wouldn't be able to get internet otherwise. So the world is getting more and more connected. And one thing I noticed in Bangladesh was young people are not that different to, like young people, how they behave and what they're interested in the UK, right? I can tell you that for a fact. They're on their phones, they're on Snapchat, they're taking selfies.
Don't you think that's sad? I mean, I don't mean that the fact that they're on their phone, but don't you feel like, I mean, globalization is a brilliant thing. It's wonderful. We shouldn't keep advancement. We shouldn't hoard it to ourselves. We should give it to other people. But we're looking at this side of globalization where we're making everyone generic.
Yeah,
we're removing the diversity and the differences amongst
the world is
people.
becoming more generic, and I can tell you that so before, like I know exactly the world that you're describing, where if I was to see a man who like resembled someone from say someone resembled an Indian person, I'd be able to say to myself, okay, they have this particular set of values that I understand, being someone from that part of the world. I might be able to relate to them, make them feel comfortable when I first meet them, so that they don't get confused in communication, and they get what I'm talking about and stuff. And if I meet someone else who's different skin color, say someone's white, and I meet them and they're dressed a certain way that say they're wearing like a Liverpool FC top and they're white skin person, and I'd understand, okay, this person is from this particular part of the world and they have a certain set of values and how they grew up that I'm kind of familiar with because I grew up in this country and I support Liverpool. So I get like how it could work in those times, but now, like for example, my nephew, so my sister, her husband is Eritrean. So you could say that's someone from a different part of the world completely. He's from East Africa, but he's Norwegian as well, which makes it gives him. He grew up in Norway. It gives him like a big, hefty European Western understanding on the world. She's Bengali. Okay, now they came together. They're both Muslim, however. They came together through their mutual understanding of faith, and they got married, and now they have a kid. Where's that kid growing up? In Qatar, because they moved to Qatar, and then they're gonna move somewhere else. And so that child set of values and experiences is something of an anomaly for someone who's going to meet them. They're going to see a kid who's got very fair brown skin but tight curly hair, and forget about them being able to identify him when he tells them his cultural heritage. Where does that, where would he fall in within like Khalid bin Walid's radiallahu anhu's army and stuff? That's the world we live in now, and increasingly so. Increasingly so. So in that world, what role does identity have, and how do we set ourselves apart, and do we want to set ourselves apart? It seems like more and more it's obvious that we have so much in common, and yet people are still going crazy over the American elections are coming up, and people are polarized again, based on the president, the current president. And so I think this question of identity, especially for us, us being people who our parents are from somewhere else, and we were born here without any say, and have kind of assimilated into society, but still have values that are kind of different, you know,
Mm.
like whether it's not going to the pub with colleagues, or it's, you know, maybe sometimes like not shaking hands with the
Mhm.
opposite gender, and that being problematic, but at the same time, it's part of our, you know, faith and
Yep, yep.
some of our principles. So I think it's it's a doozy, bro.
So while you were talking, I was thinking about 3 words that I would use to describe myself.
Okay, go on, hit me.
British, Muslim, and Bengali, in terms of my ethnicity. Personally, I think those things, I have those values, and
And a
those
meathead.
values.
I think.
Sorry,
Nothing.
say that again.
I said meathead. That's the 4th word I'd add. You do go to the gym a lot,
Not that much, actually. Not recently.
is it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Um,
All right, I take it back. Not meathead.
I think those are very strong within me. There are other things, but they're like airy fairy stuff.
Like what?
Like I go to the gym. I like
Meathead.
Yeah, meathead. Mixed martial arts.
Okay, meathead.
Meathead.
You're kind of like really confirming and solidifying my my theory here. God, say something that isn't a meathead thing. I challenge you.
I like watching movies.
What kind of movies? Meathead
No,
movies, isn't it? I knew it.
But yeah, I think I honestly think.
Are you
Those
British first, or Muslim first, or Bengali first?
I can't. I think my religion would trump everything else.
Why?
It's more eternal. It's not temporary. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
It has it will have a lasting effect on me.
Yeah.
I think I completely appreciate what you were saying before, and I liked what you were saying, that, you know, there's a lot of us who say that we are Muslims, but in fact our principles say otherwise, and our actions and behaviors say otherwise.
Yeah.
The reason why I say I identify with, you know, I would say that I'm a Muslim, is because I want to have those principles. I want to have those values. I'm not saying that I have them. By no means do I have them. You know, there's a lot of things that I can change in my life and I can improve. But putting that at the top of the list means that for me, what I believe in is, you know, Islam being a divine kind of, entity, allowing me to make decisions without, you know, make decisions with, you know, in a very rational way, in a way that I'm not just thinking about the here and now, but I'm thinking about the implications that this decision might have a few years down the line.
Like, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Your identity as a Muslim, if you were to identify that to to say to someone, "This is who I am," it would give them more of a sense of how you act and behave.
I think, yeah, or how I would like to act and behave.
Okay.
And what principles and values I hold in high regards.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want, you know, and obviously we all do this, that, you know, and it's in the world at the moment. I wouldn't want, just because I've identified as a Muslim, I wouldn't want someone to think that, oh, you know, this is what being a Muslim means, meaning me. I think that's a very reductionist way of kind of looking at things.
Yeah.
But yeah, for me, by saying that I'm a Muslim is saying that these are the principles and these are the values that I hold in high regards.
I think the question's unfair as well. You know, when I say, "Oh, which one?" Because
Yeah.
You know,
No, I think I would happily say that.
Yeah.
In terms of the second two, I think it will be being British, because I was brought up here.
Yeah.
Anytime I go abroad, whether that is back to Bangladesh or any other places. I yearn for my home. I yearn to come back home to this miserable weathered country. But it's at the end of the day, it's home. I know how this country works, and these are the principles and values that I'm kind of I agree with. And I don't agree with all of them, but I like to think that I agree with the majority of them.
Yeah.
And I think that is why it's second, because with Islam, I would agree with all of them.
Sure.
And then Bengali being last is because this is a bit of a conflict, because I would say I don't with the Bengali principles. It's not so much to do with whether I believe I hold them up in regard. I hold them up in high regard, or the values I respect them, or anything. I think it's more about genetically who I am, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And genetically, I'm Bengali, and I think genetics has a massive impact on who I am. It has an impact on my skin color. It's had an impact on my height. It has an impact on my intellect. It could have an impact on my intellect, etc. And therefore, how I function in society and how I how I'm functioning in society is defined by a lot of these genes.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I think that would be something I'd love to delve more into, and I'll just touch on quickly, because I'm sure it seems like you've got more interesting stuff to add to that.
I think juices have run out.
You know that aspect of who you are genetically, and how that leads you to be in society, whether that's behavior or reactivity or whatever. I heard something recently. I was listening to another podcast, and it was a psychologist. Her name's Dr. Kelly Brogan, and she was talking about this lady who, all of us, she'd grown up fine.
Yeah.
I think it's one of her patients, or it's a case that she heard about. And this lady who was fine in society, then all of a sudden, she started exhibiting suicidal behavior and thoughts, and she became kind of manic, and she was put through all different procedures and protocols and institutions of mental health to try and sort her out. And nothing was working. And in the end, it turned out that it was some food intolerance that she had.
Oh wow.
And that was part of her genetic makeup to react that way to that particular food intolerance. And so when they took that particular food out of the equation, I think it was gluten, when they took it out of the equation, and a number of other interventions, but that was the major player, her behavior went back to normal. And so, someone who would be looked at as a crazy person, based on whatever you could visually look at and identify them for, it turned out that part of what made them genetically was the I'm not going to say cause, but was the reason that they had these strange behaviors. They were exhibiting these strange behaviors. And I'm sure that is the case. I know, you've mentioned before that being Asian and Bengali, we're at a higher risk of diabetes and stuff, and that kind of informs the way that we behave as well, right?
It should. It doesn't, but it should.
It should. Because if we don't, and we have a different behavior, it will lead down this, this road. So I think the genetic aspect of it is so interesting, and I think a lot of us ignore it.
Yeah.
The thing that about, well, I've been saying it again and again, but that thing of self-awareness, that when you understand who you are, even though we probably never will, when you understand who you are, you can identify what things will hurt you and what things will help you, and that could be from someone who is, not good at driving, so they need to learn to improve their driving skills, all the way to having genetic predispositions to certain things.
Well, more very interestingly, in fact, and it's it's a daily occurrence, is high blood pressure. So when someone's diagnosed with high blood pressure, if they are black, Afro-Caribbean, we would give them a different medication.
Really?
Yeah, because
Wow.
they don't respond to the first line medication, which we'll call ACE inhibitors,
Yeah.
as the way other people do. So
Okay.
we don't necessarily give them ACE inhibitors. We'll
Yeah.
give them what's called calcium channel blockers.
Yeah.
And that is a demonstration of how important genetics is. And it kind of, using that, the question is, can we extrapolate? And it is dangerous territories, though. Does genetic have an impact on behavior?
Yeah.
I'm really reluctant to say that, because some horrific things have happened because of this idea in the past.
Well, I've been looking at this book here, man. Oh, this is Mouse by Art Spiegelman. So this is that book I was telling you about. You know, the
Yeah.
Holocaust,
Yep.
Nazi Holocaust against the Jews, and how the Nazis are identified as cats and the Jews are mice. And yeah, eugenics kind of like, I don't know if you're talking about eugenics, but like those things of looking at different people and their brain sizes and where they're from and who they are, that kind of like had a whole different surge around that time, like the Aryan race. And
it's sad because, for some reason, that side takes hold, as opposed to the side that can actually probably be more, it can probably be better for society and help society to understand each other more. And, we're getting that, we're slowly getting that with personalized medicine and stuff like that. All this stuff is coming out where we are looking deeper into our genetic material. And we are able to, the idea of personalized medicine is we are able to prescribe medication which is genetically compatible for a certain patient, instead of giving a generic. For example, what we do with what's called levothyroxine is a thyroid hormone. We kind of titrate it up, or metformin, which is diabetic, we titrate it up. And a lot of medications we titrate up because we don't know what type of effect.
What does titrate mean, sorry?
Meaning we'll increase the dosage slowly.
Oh, okay.
Because we don't know how that person will process that medication. They may keep it in their bodies, and it might become a poison essentially, or they might excrete it quickly, and it doesn't have any effect on the person. So the idea of personalized medicine is to combat that problem, and then now what that will. On the back of that, you can find out, what diseases you're kind of susceptible to, etc. So there's a lot of things in our genetic material which impacts our daily lives, I think. And identifying to our genetics, we can take it so far. I can say I'm Bengali, but ultimately, I can take that genetic tree back to one man who arose in Africa, which is scientifically proven that we have come from one man. Or for us we've probably got the Genghis Khan in us. So in that sense, if we look at genetics in that way, it kind of unites us more than it separates us apart.
Yeah.
And, in terms of identity, is a very interesting concept and is a very interesting thing to talk about. But if we can't handle the idea properly, we have things like this, and we have the atrocities that are happening in this world, that for some reason we are kind of, we have this fetish for differences, and we try to use this in a very malice and perverted way. A lot of us use that in such a way.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's crazy because, like, you look at both of us, and as people, we are very similar.
Yeah.
And then as individuals, we're very different.
Yeah.
Right? Like, we were just eating beef jerky, and you were saying that it tastes gross, and I love it. Yeah. And I'm sure there's things that you love and I kind of find, like that's like taste.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Mango
those,
cream and rice. That's what
yeah,
I
I don't
know.
know, that makes me gag
Yeah.
a little bit gaggy. But it's not to judge you, bro. I still like you. But the point is, those things, there's a cumulative effect
Yeah.
until you make up a person, right?
Yeah.
This series of things they like and things that make them turn
Yeah.
them on and off and tick. And once you accumulate those things,
Yeah.
you have the individual.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when people say, "Oh yeah, what's that guy like?" and I'm like, "He's a cool guy, man. He's really into this and that." And
Yeah,
I
yeah.
paint a picture of
Yeah.
who you are to them, and they'd be like, "Rah, you're mates with him. Like you're into this and you're like this and you're about this." And so it's something which it's for me it's awesome that we can still be buddies
Yeah.
and go to movies that like you might really enjoy and I dislike and I really enjoy and you dislike, but we can talk about it.
Yeah, yeah.
And ultimately that kind of even if I don't enjoy the thing you enjoy or you don't enjoy the thing I enjoy, at least we get a window to each other.
Yeah, yeah.
Into each other's souls, you could say, or
Yeah,
into
yeah.
each other's psyche, and
Yeah.
get a better sense of, oh, okay, cool. That's, and I find it fascinating that people can. I know now we're talking about interests and stuff, but
Yeah.
I'm talking about how that accumulates to someone's identity.
Yeah.
I find it awesome that people can be so similar and so different,
Yeah.
and they can still coexist and they can live in harmony. And like you were saying with the example of Khalid bin Walid, like how people can excel when they understand
Yeah.
these things and are arranged in certain ways. I mean, that was for a particular cause. They were fighting a battle.
Yeah.
But if you try
But
and
the thing is, how many things can you use that for?
yeah,
That same idea.
yeah, I'm sure there's like many like applications for it, right? And so it's cool to think that if we get a better sense of who we are, then we can really maximize ourselves. And I think, at least for me, I'm gonna have to conclude that like who I am, that question that is never going to be fully answered. There's some things, like you said, definitely take precedence because they are the core things, core values by which I make decisions. But there's other things that like can change.
Yeah, yeah.
Like my
I think that's why identity is dynamic, isn't it?
yeah.
It needs to be dynamic as you grow. I think our acceptance of each other and our thing has come through age. I think so. I mean,
Yeah, you're right.
I did accept you before. What I'm saying is like, this idea
You put
of,
up with me before.
I know. I'm saying like, be actually sitting there
Yeah.
and tolerating somebody that you may not necessarily like, just to understand what makes them tick.
Yeah.
It's for me. It's come through age. Before I wouldn't associate myself with those people.
Yeah.
And maybe it's a good thing that I didn't, and maybe it's a good thing that I don't now because it just is just bad for me.
Yeah.
Anyway, but what I'm trying to say is like, knowing that I can sit there and listen to others that may disagree with me or I disagree with them it's something that has come for me through age. But the other thing I would like to ask is, how is our identity developed? Yeah.
You mean me and you? Or do you mean
Just our identity, yeah. I mean, is it just a product of our environment, therefore we have no control over it? Is it a product of we have a bit of control over it. Is it a product of our genetics, which we don't have control over?
yeah.
And that leads to so many different problems. We in the younger populations at the moment, where people are trying to identify with people who may not necessarily be the appropriate people to identify with or be like, but because they are cool and famous and out there, they are spending so much time trying to be like them, trying to achieve the same things that they are achieving. But in reality, those things are you know, very difficult to achieve, or, you know, near impossible to achieve.
Yeah.
Leading these young people to kind of destroy their adolescence, and, you know, destroy their ambitions, or, you know, kind of make them narrow-minded in terms of, oh, this is what I want to do and that's it.
Yeah.
I mean, what I mean is Instagram and YouTube. You know, all these influencers that they call themselves influencers. It's actually quite perverted to call yourself an influencer. I think.
Yeah.
Heavy, isn't it?
Yeah. The word influence kind of has negative connotations, doesn't it?
I think so. Yeah.
Not like, imagine they were called guiders, or, you know, they were
Even
called...
guiders. I mean, being a guider and then, you know, doing the stuff that I've seen some of these.
Oh no, yeah, I know. But like, I mean, like there's a certain like guidance, influence. Like, you don't say, oh, he was a bad guidance on that person.
Yeah.
You say they were a bad influence on that person.
Yeah,
you know.
yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah.
So, but I know what you're talking about, like the way they behave and so. You know what? It's hard for youngsters now because, like, you got like gender politics and like the identity. You know how you're talking about your genes. Well, if you want to talk about genes, like now we have, not now. This is something that I'm sure has been the case before, but now it's on a different scale. You know, people not identifying with the biology that they were born with.
Yeah.
So now that this is like a question which is much more, you know, in the open, it kind of like, it leads me to, at least, like, I know there's certain questions of who I am I won't answer.
Yeah.
Just because there are some like abstract ideas that are related to that, but then there's another side of me which is like, well, actually, we've got surely as human beings, we've got to have some degree of certainty and hold on to certain things that are that are permanent. You know, that don't change. Because if we didn't, then we'd just change with the tide.
Yeah, yeah.
You know? And
I think that the gender identity goes back to nurture and nature, you know, and we've had loads of theorists theorizing about how children identify themselves to the appropriate or correct gender. And the famous one is Freud, and with his penis envy and, you know, love.
Did you just say penis?
Penis envy, yeah, that's one of his.
We didn't discuss if you're allowed to use that word on the podcast. You've gone and said it now.
Well, I use it every single day. Penis.
Do you say penis every day?
Yeah, on a professional.
On a daily basis.
On a daily basis.
Anyway, sorry, I'm
just going to examine your penis now, sir.
Is that the line?
That is the line. I'm going to just I'm going to examine your testicles.
I don't know, my testicle sounds more like scientific and formal.
Okay, I'm going to examine your prostate, which means that I'm going to have to put my finger into your butt.
Yeah.
Okay, backside. Back passage. I didn't say butt. Back passage.
I'm so immature. I'm sorry. You were saying something very profound and important, and I just derailed it.
You know, you have to prep these things, because sometimes, a lot of the times, I've got stuck. Like, oh my god! And when I'm doing biopsies, I'm like, I'm going to put an antibiotic into your, and I'm just like, oh crap! What am I supposed to be saying? Into your bottom. And then I start using backside because people saying, you know, back passage, not backside.
Yeah.
I think that's the safest way of saying
back passage.
Back passage, yeah.
Okay.
And then the ultrasound probe is going to go into your back passage.
Okay.
Might be slightly uncomfortable. This can be really uncomfortable. I'm sorry to say.
Yeah.
But yeah, going back to what I was saying is, you know, does, you know, how much influence does genetic actually have on gender identity, apart from, you know, giving us the phallus and giving us the external characteristics of gender?
Yeah.
Can nurture override that? I think there's an element of truth. There is an element of yes, I think there's both ways. I think it can go both ways. That yes, nurture can. I think nurture is powerful enough.
I think
But-
what would be cool on this, I mean, we've gone over our hour now.
Yep.
But what I'd say is for another conversation,
Yeah.
I'd love to, just based on what you're just saying now, talk about maybe masculinity and femininity,
Yeah.
and what those things mean.
Yeah. I think it'd be good to look at, what the theories out there in terms of developing gender and how people have thought, or how the experiments out there that have shown how children identify to gender. I think that would be a good thing to kind of explore.
Yeah, that'd be cool. But
That is the end of this podcast.
see you later.
See you later. It's so cold and I'm quite tired.
I'm knackered.
I'm knackered. My
Podcasting is tiring.
it's because we just done 2 hours straight of intellectual talking. That is actually impossible for me. I
My
don't know
brain
how
was
I
not ready
managed
for
to
this.
do it. I really don't know how I managed to do this, bruv. I really don't know.
Do you know how you get delayed onset soreness from muscle soreness, from going to the gym?
Are you getting it now?
I think I'm going to get it for delayed onset brain soreness.
After.
Yeah. You're like, oh my God, my brain's just done some mad squats.
I was sitting there and I realized that you were just looking into the mic, like you were just staring at the mic.
I just lost all sense of what the heck is going on.
Like your brain was so overpowered that
I hope everybody listening has not lost the sense of what the heck is going on.
the will to live.
The will to live, all 10 of you. But if you guys
I
enjoyed
bet
this,
it's dropped now. It's like 6.
if it's one, I'll be happy. It's probably us just listening back to it. If you guys enjoyed this, then please like it. If you are listening on iTunes or Google, and please give us a review, subscribe to the channel. If you're on YouTube, then leave us some comments on what you thought about this video, and subscribe to the channel and share it with your friends and family. And otherwise, do you want to say anything?
Peace out.